Okay, so why don't you bring us up to date, your budget,
Okay.
your budget situation right now? Because I know they've been squeezing you
Yeah.
over the last couple of years and stuff, so.
Well, I mean, the main thing is that we're not getting any increases right now. So that's pretty across the board. We're optimistically looking towards the centennial, which is 2016. So it's the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's a celebratory thing. That's what everybody is excited about. But, you know, we're not alone. We're government.
Was it Teddy Roosevelt who started the park system?
He played a
Yes.
role in starting a lot of the parks. He was big with several of the parks. He was a big supporter, interestingly enough, because he was a hunter.
That's right.
And he loved wilderness, right? You know, we're doing pretty well. You know, we're holding our own. I mean, with inflation, we lose positions every year, but parks, that happens to parks across the country. So different
But
things.
when do you reach a threshold when it's just untenable? I mean, have you reached
Well,
that?
we haven't reached that. And I think that, you know, there are some parks that are reaching that threshold. So, you know, that is a concern for the Park Service. And the fee increases across the service, that's one of the issues. You know, a big issue that a lot of the parks have is it's not just personnel, it's overall maintenance. And that's where there's a lot of issues across the nation, is the backlog of deferred maintenance.
Now, based on those numbers, even though, you know, Lowell, when you think of the Lowell National Historical Park, you know, it's not like the Tetons or Yellowstone or anything like that, but that, based on the budget and the number of people, it's one of the larger parks in the system, isn't it?
I would say it's a medium-sized park.
Mm-hmm.
Where for this region, we're a large park. But you know, here versus Alaska, or you know, that Alaska, Wrangell St. Elias is a large park, or Yellowstone.
Mm-hmm.
Independence has I don't know, don't quote me on it, but just to give as an example,
Mm-hmm.
Independence's budget, I think, is in the $20 million.
So this annual deficit, it comes from the fact of inflation. You're not
Mm-hmm.
getting any increases. You're just holding it holding
right.
it steady year to
Yeah,
year
they're not
to year.
actually, the only time they
pay
cut us
raises
was
and everything else.
sequestration, right? Sequestration, they cut us. But other than that, it's not like they're coming in and they're cutting Lowell.
Right.
It's just exactly what you described.
Okay, so now this year you're trying to make up that hole you're forced to by raising these fees.
So the way that I look at it, I can describe it to you, is, you know, we have a lot of resources, right? We have the Boot Mill Museum, that's a big, gigantic facility, right? We run our boats on the canals, we have the trolley system, you know, the visitor center building, we have the working people exhibit, the Mogan, we do for the folk festival, you know, the summer music series, all of these things that we do. So the government budget supports that. The boat tours are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we run the boats. We have to pay captains to operate those boats. They're
Really?
certified captains. Yeah, they have to be licensed. You know. And Sue also worked with the staff to organize do all the research for this. But I'm just giving you an idea. Also, the boat tours, the trolley is involved in the boat tours too, because visitors get on at the visitor center. They get on their trolley, takes them down to the boats, and then you have a ranger who does the tour.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this, it's an expensive operation. So it's kind of above and beyond in some ways. So the fees that we collect right now for those boat tours go directly back into that operation.
And for admittance to the History Center?
So that's a separate.
That's both
that's
here,
a
right?
separate, yeah. So the monies go into a pot for fees. They go back into the boat operation.
But
the
just-
Sangha Center,
Yeah.
those monies, same thing. We charge those
Mm-hmm.
fees. Those fees then are used to pay for museum teachers that teach as part of the program.
The Park Service, as I mentioned in the email, across the country, they're looking at fees that parks charge. So on an individual basis, each park could say, we're interested or we're not interested in considering raising fees. And then this process is getting the idea together for comparables of what that similar experience would be elsewhere than at the park, in order to, a part of that is what are your costs? What are the comparables that are out there? Come up with a proposal and put it out to the public for comment. So the comparables are things that, well, going on a canal tour, locking through a lock chamber is relatively unique, but it's not totally not happening anywhere else. So the closest comparable we came up with is down on the Boston Harbor. They have boat tours that go through the lock, the Charles River lock. And it's approximately the same amount of time. It's approximately, it's similar in that it's a guided tour as ours is. So you look at that and it's almost $25 to take that.
What, for an adult?
Yes.
New windows for the boot mills, we have to apply and compete for. So big projects that cost, big dollars, we're talking 80, 90, 100,000 and higher typically, we're applying and competing with other parks in the national park system for. But we do have an operating budget that we get each year.
I remember when the park budget not too long ago was like, Sue, how long have you been there?
I'm back for the last 9 years.
I remember when it was like 3.5 million.
How long have you been?
A long time, longer than you know, or longer than. But think about that for a minute. That's a huge increase.
Well, it's interesting because I went back and I looked in 2008. So right now we have 66 permanent employees.
Yep.
I went back and looked in 2008 and we had 81 permanent employees then. We weren't even looking at a goal of how much more do we want to raise. We looked at it more, what can people afford? Because the most important thing for us really is that Lowell's affordable. That is critical. We wanted to raise it enough. We have a lot of visitors who come from outside of Lowell and come in and ride the boat tours. That's what we're known for. That's sort of the attraction that a lot of people enjoy when they come to the park. It's unique. But we did not want to price out people who are lower income.
The process that we went through was one of looking at where the costs fall, and then also, and it has to be anecdotally because of we don't take survey. Our ability to do surveys is very limited. But anecdotally, what the public says when they're coming up and forking over the money also kind of plays into the conversation. And when the museum is available year-round and the boat tours are available only for the season that they are, from May until after just at Columbus Day, the unique nature of that offering is something that we felt that people were less likely to feel was excessive, where at the museum it's a part of our core premier, it's our premier
It's your
experience.
premier
And there was
yeah.
one other factor in this too, is that we don't want to price out other museums. So if I'm a visitor and I'm coming to Lowell, I might come to the Textile History Museum and go over to the park and do the boot. If we're raising our fees up, they may be less likely to hit the Quilt Museum and pay there and pay at the boot. Or do the boat tour, pay there and pay at the boot. So it was kind of, it's all anecdotal.